Hey, Cinderali Shabas. Yeah, okay. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Anita Roth, and I'm with Airbnb. How many, I can see the audience a little bit, how many of you have used Airbnb? Hi, that's great. How many of you are hosts on Airbnb? Ooh, I see some hands. That's nice. Fantastic. Well, hopefully today I can share a little bit with you about what we do at Airbnb, how we engage with cities, how we think about transformation, both from a company and a city standpoint. So Airbnb started in 2008 in San Francisco. A couple housemates were trying to make some rent, and there was a design conference coming to town. So they blew up some air mattresses on their living room floor and hosted Kat, Amal, and Michael, the first 3 guests on Airbnb in San Francisco. 8 years later, we've seen a little bit of growth until we've hit now 3 million homes. Ole was just 1 million homes off, but we now have 3 million homes on Airbnb in 34,000 cities and 191 countries all around the world. We've also had over 150 million guests stay on Airbnb, and our peak night that we've ever had so far was this past New Year's Eve, when we had over 2 million people staying in Airbnbs and ringing in 2017 together. This kind of growth, how people has really sort of changed the way that people are using their homes, using spaces, but it's also changed the way that people are traveling and experiencing cities. Some cities have been better to adapt to this than others. And the cities that have been particularly good at figuring this out are ones that are excited to sort of embrace a new form of economy. When we think about the cities that we talk to, the ones that are especially good at embracing the sharing economy, I think, are the ones that really understand the value proposition. They understand that Airbnb and home sharing is not just great for hosts who can earn additional income and welcome and meet people from all around the world and welcome them into their homes. It's great for guests who have additional accommodation options when they visit a city. They can stay in different kinds of neighborhoods, and in many cases we see that guests who come and stay on Airbnb are able to afford to stay longer and are able to spend more money than they otherwise would if they were staying in other forms of accommodation. And cities also understand that this value proposition is great for their local economies. About 3/4 of all Airbnb listings are located outside of the main hotel district in a city. And this means that when you travel as an Airbnb guest, you are staying in different neighborhoods, you're spending money at local businesses, and you're getting to economically empower communities and neighborhoods that don't traditionally benefit from traditional tourism money. Over the past 8 years, we've worked with cities and countries all around the world, and there are a number of things that we've seen that sort of really make cities understand this value proposition. I'd like to share examples of 3 different cities and states around the world to give you an idea of how cities appreciate or how they understand Airbnb and home sharing to benefit their local communities. In the city of London, in April of last year, in April of 2016, they passed a home sharing law that allows everyone in London and now across the entire UK to open up their homes and welcome people into their homes. We worked with the City of London to understand how Airbnb fits into their larger economy and larger accommodation options, and have continued that conversation well past the law being passed. And in the beginning of this year, we are continuing to work with the City of London to help them enforce some of the laws that they put in place around night caps. As a result, London has essentially really embraced sort of this new form of economic development, and both of its residents, its guests, and its city economy are getting to benefit as a result. In 2014, right before the World Cup, the Soccer World Cup in Brazil, we got a little bit of a frantic call from some of the cities around Brazil that were hosting World Cup events. And they basically said, listen, we realized we're underprepared to host so many people that are coming to the World Cup. We don't have enough hotels. Can you help us figure something out? So we sent a team down to Brazil and to some of the local communities, and we were able to build up additional accommodations so that when people came to Brazil, about 20% of all people in Brazil during the World Cup stayed in Airbnbs. As a result of that partnership in 2014, which was sort of a quick, innovative solution on behalf of the organizers, we became official sponsors for Rio's Summer Olympics in 2016. So during the Summer Olympics, 85,000 people who came to the Olympics stayed in Airbnbs. And as a result of partnering with Airbnb and being open to having its city welcome guests in this kind of way, not only did guests have a really great local experience, but the city of Rio was estimated to be able to avoid building an additional 300 hotels. So that's additional infrastructure that they didn't have to build, that they don't need after the Olympics, but we're still able to host the kind of worldwide event that they were looking to. And finally, Victoria, Australia. Victoria is Australia's second largest state. And we've been working with Victoria for a number of years, or sorry, for a little bit over a year, to think through their disaster management. So in 2012, Hurricane Sandy struck New York City, and a lot of local residents were displaced. They couldn't live in their homes, they had to move out. And we had members of our community call us and say, listen, I welcome people into my house all the time, strangers. Why can't I make my house available for my neighbors who don't have anywhere to live right now? And because of the innovation and idea and generosity of our community, we began a disaster tool. So we rolled out a tool that has now been rolled out more than 50 times all around the world since 2012. And over 3,000 people have put up their homes on Airbnb for various disasters around the world. So we partnered with Victoria earlier last year in 2016 to integrate our disaster management tool into their disaster management planning. So the next time something happens in Victoria, they know that they can rely on some additional accommodation, whether for displaced residents or first responders, and are able to react a little more nimbly. So these are just 3 examples of the many, many places that we've worked with and that we've had really successful collaborations and partnerships with. And so you ask yourself, well, what kind of traits make for, what brings these cities together? What brings these places together? And what we found is there are 3 sort of key characteristics that sort of make these cities similar. One is they're incredibly welcoming. They are excited to share their culture and their community with people from the outside. The second is that they're very open to new forms of economic development, new forms of economic activity. And thirdly, and I think this is important for all of us, whether you're a city or a company, but they are not afraid to innovate. They're not afraid to innovate, iterate, and take risks. And those are the kinds of things that we see within our cities, but also as a company, that makes for successful path. Ultimately, these are the kinds of places that don't let the past hold them back from the opportunities and benefits of the future. Lawrence Lessig has famously been quoted as saying that creativity and innovation always build on the past. The past always tries to control the creativity that builds upon it, and free societies are those that enable the future by limiting this power of the past. So what's next? Airbnb has been working on home sharing. That's come into cities. It's changing the way people use cities, people interact with cities, but it is far from the last idea that is going to change cities. These ideas, whether they come from Airbnb or other companies, are coming fast, and they're changing at a rate that people really have to keep up with. In November of 2016, Airbnb announced the launch of something called experiences. The idea behind experiences is that you can book an experience with a local host who shows you something special about their community that you might not have found otherwise. The launch of experiences, we have hundreds of them now over the world, I think in 12 different cities around the world, and we're continuing to roll them out, brings a whole new host of opportunities and things to evaluate and understand that we haven't had to deal with so far. And those are challenges that both we as a company face as we roll out a new product, but also cities face. And again, this isn't also going to be the last thing that happens and comes and changes the way people experience and engage with cities. And so it's important for both cities and companies to be able to be adaptable, to be able to embrace new things as they come along, to evaluate the benefits, to help mitigate against the risks. Because it goes without saying that we're sort of all in this together, both companies and cities, and the path to success is really when we work together. At the end of the day, we think a lot about new products like experiences or things that are happening, car sharing, the rise of automation. And again, we all sort of have to be in this together. These changes are happening at every level, at every possible way. I'll just end by saying that at Airbnb, we believe in change, we believe in collaboration, we believe in transformation, and we very much believe in the power of creativity and innovation and risk to bring benefits and success to all of us. So, thank you.
Very much, Anita Roth.
Thank you so much.
Amazing, very inspiring to see what kind of activities Airbnb is offering and how you contribute to the local communities. What would you say in your work with the cities are the biggest challenges, and what are some counter-arguments that you hear over and over again? And when you mention your research to them, then makes them feel that you might have a point.
Yeah. The biggest challenge that we have, particularly as a company when we engage in cities, is that we are in 34,000 cities around the world. And a lot of the topics that we deal with are very local. We can't find, it's very difficult to find one-size-fits-all solutions and one-size-fits-all answers to the various questions and concerns that cities have. So a lot of our work is incredibly localized. And to build and scale a team in a way that can respond to the kinds of concerns and questions that Zurich has versus Sydney has versus New Orleans, those are incredibly different topics. And so a lot of the work we do is being able to localize and individualize our collaboration with them and the solutions that we can offer and that we can work with them on.
With your background as a city planner, it might be, or it is special that you found your way to Airbnb, to a tech company. If you then would take this combination of city planning and technology, how do you see, or what kind of influence do you see also on the city planning when it comes to smart cities, for example, integrating technology?
Yeah, it's true. As a city planner, I never would have thought that I would end up in a tech company. But I think that's a sign of the nature of how things are changing. That technology companies don't just have engineers anymore. They have everybody, because everything and everyone interacts with technology. And all of the companies that you're a part of, whether they're technology or companies or not, are inevitably going to become technology companies. Without that, you start to get left behind. And so we see the same in cities. Whether a city is excited about technology or not, it's coming. Its citizens are using technology. Its citizens are engaging with the city through technology. And the more that cities can leverage and embrace these kinds of changes, I think the better off they're going to be.
So you would see that more in the administration or in the city planning itself?
I think it's everything. I think people are slowly starting to make leaps in administration where they're incorporating more technology. We see a lot of cities starting to use technology to engage with their citizens, to understand, whether it's a poll at a bus stop where you can send an SMS with an answer to your local planning department. They say, are you using this to commute to work, or are you using this for fun? We see cities able to leverage technology as really a great multiplier, as a way to understand what's going on. And I think we see the same in city planning at large, where in order to really understand, what do we need, how do we need to change the way that we're doing things, technology can be incredibly powerful for that.
I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much.
Thank
Anita
you.
Roth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.